Good afternoon. We will call this meeting of the New Ulm Planning Commission to order. It is Thursday, November 21st, 4:30 p.m. First item on the agenda would be a public hearing. Consider the application of Dale Busher requesting a variance to allow building addition to be located 5 foot 2 inches from the south property line on the property legally described as the northwest half of Lot 4 and Lot 13, and the southeasterly half Lot of 14. Block 67 south of Center Street. The required setback is 10 feet. The street address for this property is 101 South Broadway.
All right, this is a variance application to consider the allowance of a building addition to be located at 5 foot 2 inches from the side property line. That'd be the south property line. Applicant is Mike Kroll and Dale Bushard, and the property is now under the ownership of M&D Properties, LLC. The current land use designation for this area is downtown. The surrounding land uses, according to the comprehensive plan, is downtown. The zoning designation for this site is the B2 Service Business District. Surrounding zoning would be the B3, the General Business District, that's to the north and to the east. B2 to the south, and then B1, the Limited Business District, to the west. Currently, the site's used as an office. It was previously a gas station and service station. The area uses to the north are a garden center and other business uses. To the east, offices and residential. To the south, offices and service businesses. And then to the west, residential and business uses. There was a public hearing notice published in the Journal on November 9th of 2019. And I'm going to go through a little bit of the project description here. So the property owner is proposing to construct a 34 by 62 building addition to an existing building on the property that we just described. The existing building was previously a gas station and has now been converted into office spaces. The existing building on the site is approximately located at 7 foot 2 inches from that side property line, that south line. The proposed new addition will be placed 2 feet closer to that property line than the existing building, putting that at 5 feet 2 inches from the line. Both the existing building and the new addition run in a east-west orientation with Broadway to the west and First South to the north. The property is located at the intersection of Broadway and First South. This property is in kind of an L-shaped orientation, and that can be seen on attachment to the property location map. According to City Code Section 9.10, Subdivision 5B, City Code requires that the front yard setback be 20 feet on the narrower dimension of the lot. That'd be the First South street side. And the building setback from the Broadway side of the property line shall be 10 feet. The south and the east property lines on this property would require a 10-foot building setback. The distance between the proposed addition that the applicant is proposing and the existing building to the south, that's the Carla Havelmeyer Ltd. building, is approximately 10 foot 4 inches. At this location, because of the odd shape of the lot, 20 feet of the 50-foot lot width where this proposed addition is planned to be would be the setback area. So the setbacks would roughly take up 40% of that entire lot width, and that reduces the buildable area to 30 feet. The construction of that existing gas station was done prior to the current owners purchasing the property, so that had been there a long time. And the building to the south, the Havelmeyer building, was granted a variance to be 5 feet from that side property line in 1976. There's a couple alternative actions to consider. One, do not allow the reduction of the side yard setback, or two, lessen the variance amount. Staff would recommend approval of this variance for the following reasons. The applicant did not create the hardship by locating an existing building or creating the lot size or shape. The business would be in harmony with the city's code and comprehensive plan. The adjoining property owner to the south was granted a variance to place their building 5 feet from the side property line in 1976. And again, the lot shape is unusual. And the applicant will still maintain that 10-foot required setback from the north property line that is behind 519 First South. We do have a recommended condition that the applicant would locate the property boundaries and verify the location of the proposed building on the site with city staff prior to construction. There are a number of attachments. Number 1 is the variance application. 2 is the map showing the location and property boundaries. 3 is the zoning map. 4 is the proposed site plan that was given to us by the applicant, and then we had some ground level photos for attachment 5. The applicant is here today. If you have any questions.
This is a public hearing. Anybody wishes to speak on this, please go to the podium and state your name and address.
I'm Mike Kroll, here with Mike Kroll Construction. Yeah, just asking for the variance just to make a little more the space for this addition a little more user-friendly, basically, or whatever. So just increase the size of the building a little bit so we can get a little nicer size offices and apartments for it. So that's kind of the reason behind it. So.
Okay. I have a question for you. First of all, I'm in favor of it, all right, so don't get me wrong. Well, I see you're already in construction.
Yeah, we
Have a permit?
Yep. Yeah, we do have a permit for it.
That was issued from City Hall here?
Correct. Yeah, we did the part that that is the normal setbacks, and we waited on the part
Okay.
that we're getting approved.
All right, so,
Originally, we thought the setback was only 5 feet because of the neighbor to the south of it was 5 feet also, and then the other property to the north of it is actually on the property line.
Okay.
So that one's right on the property line. So there was a little confusion there, or whatever. So we stopped the process to wait for this variance. So
if this is accepted today, will that change anything you're already doing?
no, nope,
Okay.
no. So then we'll just continue then, or move forward with it. So we wanted to wait till we got approval from it. So.
I guess I have a question. Did you have a permit before you put the concrete in? And
Yep.
a site review plan with the staff before we started this?
Yeah, we had the permit before we started. Yeah.
So how did we end up here today that's my question. And staff pictures here show footings already on the other side.
Right,
And
we
they
just,
have-
we just put that part in or whatever. If we have to, take that out or whatever, that'd be an easy, just because of the conditions of with the weather and stuff like that, so. There was
guess-
just some confusion or whatever in the beginning process, so.
I guess I'm just wondering how we got to this point, because we're setting a precedence now that, generally you submit a building plan, staff reviews it, comes
Well,
out.
the applicant submitted a floor plan of the building initially to find out what could be done and what couldn't be done. In amongst that time frame, it was expressed to the staff that the building was going to wait until next spring. And then all of a sudden, he came in and got a permit, unbeknownst to me, and called for a footing inspection, and that's when the item arose that we were dealing with a 10-foot setback instead of going to the 5-foot setback. And in talking with Mike, he was gonna do the poured walls up to that point where you see in the picture and leave the footings out until the meetings were taken care of.
Okay.
And as of last Thursday, those footings were still out. They hadn't been poured yet, so it's been since Thursday till now that they were poured.
So now, as I looked at it, you're attaching it to the existing building
Correct. Yep.
and following the sight line of that building, basically, correct? Going toward
Basically,
the alley?
2 feet off.
basically it's offset a little bit.
It is?
Just a little bit, just to tie into the building. Sometimes it's easier to tie into it if we jog it a little bit, just for tying it in and not having to match it perfectly. So, yeah. And the reason we went over a little bit farther is just the building to the south. Like I said, that's 5 feet off the property line. So basically, we were just matching that, just so we can get a little bit more space because of the narrow lot that is there, just to get a little bit more space and still maintain, enough parking in the back and in the front and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
You are gonna have residential or apartments there too?
We're just doing the commercial part of it right now or whatever, because they're working on changing the zoning in that
Okay.
area. So we're just going for the foundation right now. We're just trying to get that in before the winter sets in, basically. So
This meets the parking regulations for what square footage is gonna be?
Yes.
So it'll be offices in that building?
yeah, just
According to the layout.
offices or just anything basically. We're just kind of leaving it open right now, just trying to create more space for new businesses or offices. It just seems like there's a demand out there for new construction offices more than, there is some demand for being in older buildings, but, we're building high efficiency, new features in these buildings just to kind of attract, new business and, maybe letting businesses expand too. So just kind of giving more options for people.
So you're looking to the future, and are you aware of what the requirements are being in the downtown zone, if you're thinking about apartments or anything, or living quarters?
Yep.
You're aware of,
Yep, and we're working with the city on that and making sure everything's up to code for that. So.
because you are in that downtown zone.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, this property is located in the B2, and that currently the B2 doesn't allow apartment dwellings, and we'll be discussing that tonight down the line. But right across the alley to the east is the B3 that service or the downtown area.
Okay. So you're working with staff.
Yeah. Yep. I sure am. Yep. You bet.
John, did we receive any written or oral responses from the area neighbors from the public hearing?
We didn't. Nope.
I guess my thoughts are out loud. I don't have an issue with it because you own the corner. And the other property was already granted a variance from there. The other 2 properties in the middle of the block, they're on a 10-foot setback for the B2, the chiropractic and the heating business. And it's works, so on that capacity.
Anyone else? You get anything else? Anyone
that's all
else
I got,
wish
yeah.
to speak on this for public hearing? If not, we'll close the public hearing and take it in our court. Looking for a recommendation, folks.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second approving the variance as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Second item, also a public
Thank you.
hearing. Consider the application of Brett Wilborg on behalf of Wilborg Enterprises LLP requesting a conditional use permit to allow an existing building to be used for storage purposes on property zone B2, Service Business District, on the parcel of property legally described as Outlot A, Block 3, Valley Heights Addition. The street address of the property is 1414 West Ridge Road.
Okay, the deadline for a decision on this matter is January 5th, 2021. The land use designation in the comprehensive plan for this property is business. Area comprehensive plan designations are to the west and east, business, to the north, medium density residential, and to the south, low density residential. The zoning designation of the property is B2. Surrounding zoning is to the west and east is B2, and to the north and south is RA, Agricultural Residence District. The current site use is, it's an outdoor display area for automobiles. There is also on the property a vacant single-family building with 20,400 square feet that was constructed in 1979 and most recently was occupied by Hunter's Den. Current area uses, to the east is a warehouse building, to the south single-family dwellings and commercial uses, to the west a car dealership, and to the north it's vacant and there's also a farmstead there. Notice of the public hearing was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property, and I would note that we did not receive communications or comments from any area property owners. Project description: the property is located north of West Ridge Road and east of Wheelborg Chevrolet. The property has a total lot area of 2.36 acres. There is parking in front of the building that's now used as a display area for our vehicles. The area to the east of the building is level and vehicles are also parked on the street side of this area. The purpose of the B2 zoning district is to provide a district for a wide range of services and goods which might be incompatible with the uses permitted in retail business districts. It is intended that the B2 district be located in separate areas which may be adjacent to other retail business districts or in close proximity to a major street. Permitted uses in the B2 district include a combination of retail, service, office, and light industrial uses. Other business activities of the same general character as those listed as permitted uses are allowed in the B2 district with a conditional use permit. A storage facility is a permitted use in the I1 and I2 zoning districts. In order to recommend approval of the permit, the commission will need to determine that 1. The proposed use is of the same general character as permitted uses in the B2 zoning district, and 2. The request complies with the conditions required for the granting of a conditional use permit, and those are found in section 9.82 subdivision 2. The reverse side of the application lists the 7 conditions in order to secure a conditional use permit and the applicant's response to them. An 8th question asks, why should the city approve your request? And the applicant's response was, improvements are going to be made for a building that has been vacant for years. A 10,000 square foot storage area will be located in the building. A use for the remainder of the building is unknown at this time, although it likely will involve general dealership warehousing, and by dealership I assume car dealership warehousing. Storage space would be used for general non-hazardous materials. Storage activities would use existing doors to enter the building. There would be no loading dock. Storage activities would take place Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Semi-trailers would not be used for storage activities. And since 2000, the city has approved 9 requests to place storage uses in a B2 zoning district. Attached is the application, a zoning map showing the location of the property, an aerial photograph of the property, and 3 ground level photographs of the property. Staff would recommend approval of the request with conditions and for the following reasons. Number 1, the request complies with the conditions required for the granting of a conditional use permit. 2, the proposed use is of the same general character as the following permitted uses in the B2 zoning district: marine and boat sales and service establishments, Monument sales, including manufacturing within a building if such manufacturing does not exceed 30% of the floor area. Newspaper distribution agencies, nurseries, garden stores, and commercial greenhouses, plumbing showrooms and shops, printing shops, public utility structures, municipal and governmental buildings, and publishing shops. The City Council, at its August 1st, 2019 meeting, previously approved the issuance of a conditional use permit to Tony Golden on behalf of Wind Shuttle Golden Enterprises Incorporated to locate a storage facility at this same location. Adjoining development will not be adversely impacted by this use. The comprehensive plan designates the property to the north for medium-density residential land uses. Currently, there is a single-family dwelling located on this property, and staff is not aware of any further development proposed for this property. If such development should occur, there is sufficient distance between the storage building location and the residential property to mitigate any adverse impacts. The single-family dwellings located to the south will not be impacted by this use due to their distance from this site. Storage buildings are generally a less intense use than most B2 land uses, and the city has previously allowed storage facilities in the B2 zoning district. Staff has identified some conditions, and I might note that these conditions were sent to the applicant yesterday, and staff did not receive response back from them on them. So the conditions would be: 1, the applicant will pay the cost to record the permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. 2, storage uses will only take place within the existing building. 3, no loading dock will be constructed on the property without further approval of the city. 4, hours of operation will generally be between 8 a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. on a daily basis. 5, no semi-trailers will be used for storage activities. And 6, no hazardous materials will be stored in the building. Potential motions to approve the request and to deny the request are also provided. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone wish to speak on this matter? Please go to the podium. Again, anyone wish to speak on this particular matter? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on this matter and turn it over to our commission. What do you wishes?
Is it
Chairman.
standard?
Go ahead.
Standard to wait until we hear from the requester on those conditions before we would move on this?
No, that's not necessary.
It's not.
No.
Mr. Chairman, question for city staff. It says a single family exists on the property already?
No, that's on the property to the north,
Oh, okay.
which is the former Stieber farmstead.
Okay. I thought the way it sounded here was on that property.
No. I might also note that there's a storage building to the east of this particular property, and my recollection is that the city issued a conditional use permit for that building as well.
So to comment on the conditions, if we approve or whatever, we approve with those conditions, those could be addressed prior to it ever getting to the city council, correct?
No, the conditions would apply to the operation and the
If they
use.
agree to them or not agree to
No,
them in the
they
timeframe.
they don't have to agree to them. These are
Okay.
conditions that the city is putting on the use of this particular
Okay,
piece of property.
okay.
Being we're changing the use of this building here from retail to part of it's gonna be storage of it, part of it's obviously looks like it's gonna be used for, car lot. Is there any concern about setbacks for vehicles or, public right of way? I know that's not necessarily the agenda here, but has staff talked to them about the use of the building? for possible public right-of-way.
No, we haven't. I think there is 60 feet of right-of-way, and that's normally what we would require for a street.
So staff is fine that it, might be a car lot in the front of the building?
That's been a public parking area
Okay.
previously, for the business. And so if it's, I guess, a similar type of use in the past, we would allow it to continue when ownership changed or use would change.
Well, the request is for a building and
Yep.
a storage, correct?
Right.
So at some point in time, they decide to put cars out, that would be a separate issue. If they want to put it over sidewalks or something, that's a totally different issue, correct?
Well, it's a different issue from this particular
From this
request.
request,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
There's improvements already being made to the property. They're digging out, the fence is gone, they're digging out, and they're also put gravel back in, cars are stored there already, so, or parked there already, I should say.
And a car dealership is a permitted use, obviously, in the B2 zoning district.
Well, they did a wonderful job with the car dealership they have now, and they keep on growing, so
Yeah.
Yep.
it looks wonderful up there. I'm sure it looked wonderful after they get the improvements done, so.
I don't have an issue with it. I mean, we had Napa here a couple of years ago looking to repurpose the building if they could get it, and it didn't work out for them, so if they got the opportunity to develop it, I'm in favor of it.
Likewise, I think it's a good thing for our city, so. The building's been sitting empty, that area up there for a couple of years already, so. Anyhow,
Ready to make a motion if you're ready to take one.
we're ready.
I would move to approve the request with the conditions.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You're saying with the conditions that were presented?
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion and a second approving the request with the conditions presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And moving on down the line at 2.3, consider the amendment of section 9.10 of the city code to allow residential uses in the B2 Service Business District Zone in or adjoining the downtown area, continued from the October 31st, 2019 meeting.
Okay, the applicant in this particular case was the Community Development Department. The legal description of the property impacted by this request is provided on your report. There are a variety of different street addresses, so we did not provide them. There is no deadline for a decision on this matter. The land use designations in the comprehensive plan for these areas is either business or downtown. Surrounding land uses are either downtown, medium-density residential, or low-density residential. Zoning designation for all of the properties obviously is B2. Surrounding zoning is B1, B3, R2, or R3. Current site uses vary, as do surrounding area uses. Public hearing notice was published in the October 19th edition of the Journal. And as was noted previously, this matter was continued from the October 31st meeting. And at that time, the Planning Commission asked the staff to secure additional information on these types of changes in a B2 zoning district. And so staff has researched this matter further, and we have 3 separate pieces of information that we'd like to have you consider. The first is research on the B2 zoning districts that we have in or adjoining the downtown area. And so we're talking about 4 half-block areas and then 2 partial half-block areas that are Zone B2. And we have provided information by parcel for each of those areas. And the parcel information includes the legal description, the owner name, the street address, current use, and whether the use is permitted in the B2 and B3 zoning districts. So, and then information is also provided on the number of existing residential units and the type of dwelling unit that is found currently. And I would note that there are a total of 9 dwelling units in this combined area. 4 are single-family homes and 5 are apartments. The 4 single-family homes were constructed prior to 1968 and are non-conforming uses. The 5 apartments were constructed in buildings that, and that took place also before 1968. Within the combined area, there are a total of 28 parcels. And of the 28 parcels, 17 have uses that are permitted in the B2 zoning district. 5 are partially permitted, and that means that we probably have a situation where we have an office and a residential unit, or something and a residential unit. So the office would be permitted, but the residential unit would not be. So that's why it's partially permitted. 4 are not permitted, and 1 could be permitted with a conditional use permit. So that's just in the B2 zone. In the B3 zone, we have 19 uses that would be permitted in that zoning district. 1 would be partially permitted, 4 are not permitted, and 3 may be permitted with a CUP. So even though the property is zoned B2, we actually have more uses that are permitted in the B3 zone than in the B2. One of the parcels is in transition, and that's the church at 125 South Broadway, and so we don't know what its future is at this particular point in time. The only uses that are not permitted in both the B2 and the B3 zoning districts are the Armory, that's only permitted in the B2 district, New Ulm Tire, which is also only permitted in the B2 district, Nielsen Heating and Air Conditioning, again, only in the B2, and the Post Office, which is only permitted in the B3. And then the residential uses as well they're not permitted in the B2 zone. They are permitted in the B3 with a conditional use permit. So, and the 4 uses that were identified as not being permitted in both districts, we felt with a conditional use permit, they could be located in those districts, that they would be eligible to be in those districts because they're similar. This analysis, staff's opinion, shows that most of the existing land uses in the B2 zoning district are also permitted in the adjoining B3, and that from a land use perspective, there currently is really one land use district in the downtown area. Okay, the second thing that we did is we looked for information on residential uses in commercial zoning districts in 11 greater Minnesota cities. And the definition for New Ulm's B2 service business district is provided. And the 11 cities that we looked at, those cities are provided by name: Fairmont, Marshall, Hutch, North Mankato, Albert Lee, Faribault, Waseca, Owatonna, St. Peter, Le Sueur, and Wilmer. Of the 11 cities, 9 of them had zoning districts that we felt were similar to New Ulm's B2. And we've provided you with a attachment that shows those communities and their respective zoning districts. Of the 9 cities with similar districts, the following residential uses are allowed. 7 allow apartment units, And of those 7, 2 permit them outright, 4 permit them with a conditional use permit, and 1 allows an apartment as an accessory use. And then 7 cities allow multifamily residential uses. Of the 7 cities that permit apartment units, 4 require that the apartment be located above the first floor. 3 of the cities do not specify which floor the apartment shall be located on, but do require a conditional use permit for this use. In all the cities researched, the residential uses allowed are to be secondary to the commercial use if located within a commercial structure. With 2 exceptions, all of the cities researched allow some type of residential use in the zoning district that is similar to New Ulm's B2. Those uses include multifamily residences, mixed-use buildings, or apartment dwellings above the first floor. The third subject area that we looked at is the city's existing comprehensive plan. And attached to the report is a copy of our land use plan. And you will note that this plan establishes a land use category called downtown. And this category was established to better enable the city to address the unique development needs of the downtown area. And that area is generally bounded by 7th North, North and South German, First South Streets, and North and South Broadway. And I'm just taking information from the comprehensive plan. This area will continue to evolve away from being the city's central business district towards a mixture of retail, service, office, public, and residential uses. And I think all of us can look at the downtown area and say, yeah, that's taking place or has taken place. One of the goals for the land use plan was to encourage the continuing evolution of the downtown to be a vital and sustainable mixture of commercial, residential, and civic uses. Policy statement under that goal is to allow housing in the downtown area as a means of expanding the market for downtown businesses and as a source of new investment. In staff's opinion, allowing specified residential uses in the downtown B2 districts is consistent with the comprehensive plan vision for the downtown area. So considerations for the Planning Commission does the Commission believe that the proposed amendment adequately encompasses their recommendations on this matter? And are there additional requirements the Planning Commission would like to see incorporated into the amendment? I guess the third one is the Planning Commission may decide that this is something that you don't want to pursue at all. Staff would recommend approval of the amendments described in attachment 5. And motions are also provided both to approve and to deny the request. If the request is approved, it would go to the City Council for their consideration. Any changes would have to be enacted by ordinance, and obviously only the council can take that action. Supporting data, there's 6 different attachments that are provided. And then, John, you had done just a little further research on, I think, the 6 areas that are Zone B2 in New Ulm's downtown area, and
Sure.
share that.
So we had taken a look at each individual block in the downtown area, the parts that we described earlier, and kind of wanted to assess or have a sense of if there would be any potential residential uses that could be incorporated into those areas based on what's currently there or what's not there. So I'm just going to go through those different blocks. So on block 67 South, that's 1st to 2nd South and Broadway. There is possibility of some residential development in that area. That's the block that has the church that currently isn't functioning as a church. It also has a crawl building that we just had talked about. The rest are business uses. Block 104 North, that's 1st North to 2nd North and Broadway. There's fairly limited residential development that could be done in that block. That block is more or less built out already. Although, and I guess additionally, the second floors of those buildings that are on that block already have apartment dwellings in them. And
So we're looking at the property directly, the half block directly across the street here.
Right.
Is block 104 North.
Right. So block 103, this would be the Armory, Jimmy John's block. Second north to third north in Broadway. There would be, I guess, potential for some residential development there, depending on what happens with the Armory. And then additionally, right to the north of the Armory, there is a vacant lot. That could be an option. Block 102, that's between 3rd North and 4th North. That's the block that AMPI is on. That block, too, is built out entirely with AMPI's offices as well as other single-family residences on that block. And then directly across the street, block 69, that is the block that has the Broadway house on it and then also another single-family residence. So that block, too, we thought would have the potential for some residential uses, considering that there's 2 vacant lots that aren't developed and there's already residential uses on that block.
Just real quickly, I would note that there also is one ownership in that particular case as well. It's owned by the New Ulm Economic Development Authority.
Right, and then the last block was 183 South, and that is where the post office is located, and then also some empty lots from Pullman Lumber. And staff didn't believe that those had any really potential to be developed into any types of residential uses.
I guess that would conclude the staff report.
Okay.
There are some apartments already above, on Broadway over here, trying to think above,
Oh, dental.
yeah, right next to Dental.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
They
Yeah.
stated that in the report.
Right.
Yep.
Is there ever a problem with people calling, complaining about, like, hypothetically, a business making too much noise and mixing these up? I mean, and at what point, what kind of rights do the businesses have and what kind of rights do the apartment people have if it's a disturbance down the road?
I haven't fielded any complaints on,
But how would we handle it down the road if there is?
Well, it's really no different than the development pattern you find in the downtown area on North and South Minnesota Street, where we have, or in the past at least, have had residential units above the businesses there. So it's probably similar to that. And to be honest with you, I don't remember fielding a lot of complaints, other than sometimes when something is held outdoors that involves music, which sometimes can bother people. But I would say generally in the downtown area,
They should know what they're getting into when they move
I was
in.
gonna say, when they're moving in,
Right.
Yeah.
you're moving in above a business. Yeah, I can't think of any complaints that I feel that differ in the downtown area on noise complaints.
You see this in a lot of communities now as they're developing or redeveloping their retail areas, where they're building buildings where there is retail space and then 3 stories of apartments above them to just kind of get some density in the area.
Well, and to clean up a lot of areas, that helps, you know.
Yeah.
Sure. So this, there is a gentleman here, Mr. Riki, who owns a property directly behind us, who is located in the B2 Service Business District and has brought this issue to our attention, and I believe would also like to potentially locate an apartment on the main level
Yeah, I began talking with John and David earlier this summer about the property I bought across the street here and things, and I bought it, and I know the zone didn't allow first floor residential stuff, and I'm just trying to work with the city on maybe considering it, because that building's older and it's very hard to make changes to, and costly and stuff, and with a lot of the newer offices and stuff that are coming into town, it's really tough to compete with that. I would have to sink a ton of money into it. I couldn't really compete with the parking situation, new updated, everything in some of these places that are being built for small businesses and stuff like that. And I'm not asking for my entire first floor to be residential, just a portion of it. So,
Could you state your name and address for the record?
my name is Tim Rickey, and my address is 424 South State Street.
So when you say you're not looking at the entire first floor, you're aware that your parcel or the front part of it would be something
Yeah,
business?
yeah, there is currently there's really two areas in that building. One is currently rented as a business, and I'm gonna leave it as a business. I always intend to, I have plans in the future to leave it as a business and stuff like that. But the side portion of the building is not super accessible to a business, other than the front of it, which there's limited parking there. And like I say, it just, with the changes over the years, I feel like of needs for office space and stuff, there's just too much other competition out there that's better, and the amount of rents that I could get there would not make up for the difference of the expense it would cost me to make it so.
Is there something in here where it was a percentage of the 60% or 40 or something like that we read?
Right. If you take a look at attachment number 5, the proposed language for the amendment to this section in the code is all in the underlined part of attachment number 5, and under subdivision 3.2 or 3C2, we have dwelling units proposed to be on the main floor or first floor of the building are subject to the following requirements. One, or A, is that the minimum floor area of the business shall be no less than 60% of the total main floor area, and shall be no less than 850 square feet in size. So we do address the percentage that a residential unit could be on that main floor.
Similar to the downtown, I think. Don't we have something like that downtown?
Yeah, in the downtown area, what we used was a percentage of the building space.
Did we use that for the Thrifty Drug Building over there?
Yes, that's when it was established and adopted.
So have you been in touch with these people as far as looking down the road, on what your possibilities are?
Yep. I've been talking with these gentlemen here on and off about where the city is currently on it, and possibilities down the road and stuff like that. So I've been learning and investigating. So
I guess question for you, Tim, and for staff, the dwelling unit proposed, would it be, would it meet the criteria for the 850 square feet for the business yet, and then for the apartment, for the minimum, for this particular instance? Would that meet the criteria?
my building, yeah, the business area is well over 850 square feet.
And then the dwelling unit shall be no less than 400 square feet and no
Yeah, I would fall under that.
no
Yeah.
less than 520 for a one bedroom. Does that meet the minimum?
Yep, I'd be good there.
Question, I guess, for staff, how did we establish that square footage rule? Did we come up with? baseline? Did we take that from other cities or?
Well, we looked at other cities, but we also talked to people locally and looked at, we have a number of new office areas, so we looked at what those square footages were. And I think for the residential units, we looked at other communities to see what they have. Many of them have minimums, so that's.
Right, that generally speaking, that 400 square feet minimum is for an efficiency or one-room apartment, and that seemed to be more or less statewide that number was being used.
I'm thinking this was addressed pretty thoroughly when, again, back to the 50 drug building where they wanted to have offices and living quarters in the middle.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And that was a
We're
big-
actually going a little bit further with this particular matter in that case, we did not establish a minimum square footage or a minimum percentage for the business side, so.
Okay.
Well, I think you guys did an outstanding job in coming up with different recommendations and different things also, so thank you for that.
Very thorough, thank you.
You know,
A
and
lot of work.
Totally agree.
I mean, yeah, got a lot more information than last month when we received, information in regards to this and, again, Dave stated we don't have to necessarily make a decision on this tonight, we're hearing it. At our work session the other night, we're talking about another zoning issue and then talking about working with that with city staff with the comprehensive plan on that. I don't know if there's more information that we can bring to the table futurely with updating the comprehensive plan, where staff is looking at that residential use and industrial, and now we have this use.
Well, this is an agenda item for us. then
Correct.
We should make a recommendation to approve or deny and then send it to the city council. I'm not sure what you're all talking about as far as a working session or whatever, but there's an agenda item for us. I think we need to make a recommendation to
I
either
think Larry's just
approve or-
referring to the fact is that a little time, if we would want to give it a little time for people to come up to us and say, is this right? Or for us to read it over and say, are there any situations what, might not be?
I guess, I'm basing it off of taking community input, how does the city, or how do the citizens feel, want to see this? Are they gonna be receptive to this, for one? We're just hearing it.
We might not hear nothing. I mean,
Correct,
do you have a
but
timeline on this?
Staff is working on the comprehensive
Yesterday?
plan too,
Yes, yeah. I mean, sooner the better for me, but I know it's a big deal for you guys to consider it and look into it, so.
Well, I agree with what Larry is saying, but for our point of view, from my point of view, I think we need to move this and move it to the city council. And if the city council wants to delay it and look at it for another month or 2 or 3, that's their option for, but I think our decision is to move it, to get it to them and what they need to know what our wishes are, so.
Right, and I think, again, the information that you put together is so helpful. What we're looking at doing is similar to what other communities this same size are doing, and that to me, that's very helpful. And the fact that it really does fit with comprehensive plan, it just seems like it's a good way to move forward. So I really appreciate the information, it's very helpful.
Very good, very good.
And I agree, I think that it would be good to move it forward and give the city council, or whatever the next step is, a chance to look at it and discuss it.
Well, a motion would be in order for
I
either
would make that motion,
make it to accept or
Yes.
deny. Accept?
except to recommend approval of the amendments, as stated.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the request as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So if you want to attend the city council, be, what is that? 2 weeks?
December 3rd.
December 3rd.
Third,
Yeah.
Okay, it'll go into their hands.
All right. Well, no, I really appreciate you guys' time and all your research and things, so
Okay, thank you.
thank you
Thank
very
you, Tim.
much.
And hopefully by that time, if the public want to say something, they can
Right.
Oh,
look at the.
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
Well, the ordinance approval process, normally you have a first reading of the ordinance, you have a second reading, and then you have a vote. So, that's typically
Month and a
2
half.
meetings, yeah. So
Great.
if there's ample time, for the public to comment on the ordinance.
Okay, moving on, city council decisions, anything for us?
Yeah, at the November 5th meeting, council approved Scott Dreckman's, he was on behalf of All Store Public Storage, his request for a comprehensive plan amendment to vacate a trail segment beginning at Carl Drive and proceeding in a northwesterly direction to North Highland Avenue. They received a report and ordered it filed on residential uses in industrial zoning districts, and then requested that be an item on their next work session, which was held this past Tuesday. They approved the vacation of that easement area that was requested by Mr. Dreckman, and that was done so with conditions. And then they also approved a request, and this goes to Brown County, to withhold from sale some tax forfeited parcels for 6 months, and that includes 2 lots in the Marketplace Mall and the George's Ballroom property. At the November 19th meeting, they discussed residential uses in the industrial zoning districts as part of their work session. They agreed to consider that with the update of the comprehensive plan. And the update of the comprehensive plan is tentatively scheduled for July of 2020. But obviously it's always dependent on staff having time to devote to that purpose. So that's what we're hoping. We'll see.
Thank you. Anything from the Heritage Preservation?
No meeting this month.
No meetings this month. Anything from the commissioners? Well, if not, that would be the end of the meeting. There's no further agenda. I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy. And I'm sure some of you want to just go shopping on Black Friday, so go for it. So, no further business. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, I would note that we'll likely have a December meeting.
We will.